Vitthara Satta Sanñā Sutta. Okay, you get quite a long title here. Now, first of all, let's look at the main sutta title, Satta Sanñā. Satta has got many different meanings. For example, it can mean being, a human being, Satta. It can also mean seven, okay, seven. Here it means seven. Saññā, perception, okay. Once again, we must be careful. The translation perception is a dictionary translation, okay? Then we have to explain the meaning later in a moment, all right? Now here, Vitthara means in detail, in detail. Sanskrit is Vitthara, and from Vitthara you get the Thai word Pisadan. That's the way the Thai pronounce the Sanskrit Vitthara, okay? Opposite of this is Sankita. Sankita means in short, right? So this is the discourse, sutta, discourse on the seven perceptions in detail, right? The detailed discourse on the seven perceptions. A 7.46. Now, once you see the A Anguttara, you have a good idea that laymen can study this also, although this kind of meditation is meant for monks, but laymen can also try it. Now here you have a equal sign and then BE. BE means Burmese edition. You got EE. EE is European edition. That is the PTS, Pali Text Society Pali version. And then you have CE, Sinhalese edition. That's from Sri Lanka. And then you got SE, Siamese edition. That is from Thailand. No? Now, the sad thing is, for some reason, Bhikkhu Bodhi, in his commercial translation, made a policy of always leaving out the Siamese edition. I don't know why he does that. So that makes his work less valuable. So we have to look up the Siamese edition on our own. Anyway, here we have the Burmese edition, and number is slightly different. Because there are a few thousand of the Anguttara suttas, so here in the common way of counting, there are 46, but the Burmese tradition, they count as 49, okay? It's not that there are extra suttas, it's the way the sutta is split up. So normally we remember this common numbering, A746, but it's good to be aware of the variant number. Otherwise, we can remember the title, Satta Saññā Sutta, or Vitthara, Satta Saññā Sutta, or Dutiya Saññā Sutta, the second discourse on the perceptions, Saññā Sutta 2. So there are different names to it. Now we have a new dictionary or index of sutta titles, a few thousand sutta titles, about 20 years of sutta translation. So if you want that index of sutta titles, just contact us, we'll send it to you FOC, free of charge. All right, so today we're going to look at these 7 meditation methods that can lead you to attain nirvana if you practice it properly. In other words, these 7 kinds of meditation can be used with insight. If properly used with insight, can actually be practiced as a whole meditation, bringing you to the path. Otherwise, used in a simple way, they can help you to overcome certain distractions. Now, let us look at the keyword, Saññā, right? It's in the notes, you can read on your own later. Here, Saññā normally translates as perception, but sometimes Saññā can also translate as consciousness. For example, in the name of the highest level of the formless meditation, Neva Saññā na Saññā Yatana. The base of neither perception nor non-perception. That refers to consciousness. The word there means consciousness. Why is Saññā used in that at the level of meditation? Because the consciousness is very, very subtle. Very subtle, right? So subtle that the word Saññā is used to signify that. Here, Saññā means something like idea. An idea we use in meditation, or a theme we use in meditation, a kind of perception we use for meditation, a special idea as meditation object. All right. So there are 7 kinds that which the Buddha advises to practice. We can choose any one of them, see which one suits our personality, and which one helps to keep our mind focused. We can use that. Because some of these methods are specifically meant for monks, because they're not easy for the layman to do. They're also very difficult, in some cases quite fearful to do, as in the first method. Okay. Now, before we go to the first method, let's look at the sutta itself. Okay, let's go further down to page 96. Let's go down. Okay, here we are. Notice this sutta starts right away. No, these perception bhikshus, right? There's no Evame Sutta, no introduction, because it's a series of teachings given in the Book of Sevens. The Buddha is talking here, and he starts off by saying, these 7 perceptions, remember the word perceptions here means meditation ideas or meditation subjects or topics for meditation. These 7 perceptions, bhikshus, when cultivated and continuously developed, are of great fruit, of great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending up in the death-free. Now, this is a classic style of the oral tradition. First, you cultivate it, and you keep on cultivating it. Don't give up, right? So it brings you great benefit. So even though you don't get awakened, you feel the sense of peace and purpose. And they bring you great benefit in the sense of bring you wisdom. And you're directed to nirvana. You might even get a glimpse of nirvana. It is possible for us, even though we are not stream winners or not awakened, we can catch a glimpse, an idea of nirvana, flash, but it don't last very long. And then we forget about it, right? Like a sense of emptiness of all these things, a bit of sense of beyond space and time. But don't make too much a big deal of this. Then you get caught up with this kind of idea, okay? Now, I've been writing about Mara lately. I managed to finish 3 chapters. It's about 3/4 of 1 volume. And then I had my eye problem, which gives me a lot of difficulties. And so I went for the operation and so on. My eyesight is not so good now. I think about 20% of my eyesight is gone. So I'm a bit slower in reading, slower in writing, and I can't write as much as I want to before, although the ideas are there. But the computer helps. And so the study of Mara is amazing. It taught me so many things. There is a danger of intellectualism. That you have many modern Buddhists today who just kind of brush aside Mara and say, oh, it's just, psychological, it's just a personification of evil, this and that, and then they forget about it. That's exactly how Mara wants you to think of Mara. That Mara is just an intellectual idea. Well, Mara is more than an intellectual idea. Mara is as real as your greed. If you have greed, that's Mara. So the greed is real, Mara is real, it makes you do things. That's Mara. You have hatred, that's Mara. It's real. The hatred is real, it makes you do things. You have delusion, that is Mara. It makes you do things. It makes you see things wrongly. You have fear. For strange reasons, you fear people, you fear things. That also is Mara. So the Buddha teaches us to reflect on this and identify what is that thing. It's greed. Greed, I know you. You are Mara. I know you, Mara. You acknowledge it. That's one way you have no fear of greed. Hatred, I know you. You are Mara. You overcome that hatred. Illusion, I know you. You are Mara. For that moment, you dislodge delusion from your mind. Fear, I know you. You are Mara. You are no more afraid. That's how you deal with it. All right. So when you look at all these teachings, right, you say, wow, so difficult. That's Mara telling you to be lazy. Mara, you are laziness, I know you. Something like that. All right. Of course, I don't need to do that in my study because the Dhamma itself is so beautiful. And I have a secret. When I work with the suttas the last 21 years, I never think of completing so many years of work. I don't know how many years I will work. I don't know. All right. I know one thing. I know I will never complete my life, this work, because it is so much to be done. But whatever I can do is so beautiful. So I tell myself, today I will write this paragraph. And then I'll just stop when I'm tired. I do just that. I'm not there to complete this huge, big volume. No, although it ends up as a big volume. But I just say, I only want to write. You know, the amount of food that we eat every day, the amount of urine we pee every day, and we collect them. Wow, it's a lot, you know. My point is, if you can make time be on your side by doing bit by bit, doing good bit by bit. Remember, the Dhammapāla says, don't look down on goodness. Bit by bit, you do it. Just as water dropping into the pot fills it up bit by bit. And the Pali word is toka tokang. Toka tokang. That means little by little. I like this word toka tokang because it sounds like Hainanese. Tokang is to work. Huh? So you work bit by bit. Okay. So that's how we accomplish 20 years of 21 years. It's the 22nd year of Sutta work, bit by bit. So when you study Sutta, also like that. And that's how I teach my volunteers, those true readers. I tell them, look, you don't force yourself to proofread. You just read a little bit. When you're tired, you stop. You are reading the suttas. It's nothing to accomplish here. You're helping to clear the writing so that when people read it, it's easier for them to understand, it's more beautiful. So the proofreaders are really beautifying the Dhamma for you to read. Right? So that's how we study the Dhamma. So in that sense, the teaching brings us great benefit by teaching us how to live, how to work. And when we do this, it's also give us glimpses of the death-free, of nirvana. Nirvana is beyond space and time, therefore that beyond rebirth, beyond death, ending up in nirvana, the death-free. What are the 7? The perception of foulness, asubha saññā. The perception of death, marana saññā. The perception of loathsomeness in food, ahara patikula saññā. Very crudely put, rottenness of food. This is a very good practice for what do you call that, moderation in eating, using weight control also. Number 4, the perception of not delighting in all the world, overcoming worldliness. Sabba loke anabhirata saññā. The perception of impermanence, anicca saññā. Okay, this one is very well known. This is the easiest, the key practice. We should at least remember this one if we can't remember the others. Now, so this number 5, the keyword is impermanence, anicca. Number 6, the keyword is dukkha, the perception of suffering in the impermanent. Anicca dukkha saññā. And then number 7 is anatta. So you have anicca, dukkha, anatta. The perception of a lack of self, or the perception of non-self in the suffering. Dukkha anatta saññā. So here anatta, the last R is a normal short R, okay? Acting like an adjective. So there you are, those are the 7 perceptions. This sutta is quite straightforward. The Buddha gives you 7 titles and then extract each of them one by one. And each of them have got this cycle. Okay, let's look at the first one, perception of foulness, asubha saññā. The perception of foulness, bhikshus, when cultivated and continuously developed, is of great benefit, great fruit, great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending up in the death-free. Thus it is said. For what reason is this said? Why is it said to have such benefits? Bhikshus, monks, when a monk continuously abides in a mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of foulness, his mind shrinks away from sexual intercourse, turns away from it, rolls back from it. He is not drawn to it. Either equanimity or loathsomeness is established in him. Okay, this is kind of psychology, revulsion psychology, if you like. And this is very good for monks who have a lot of sexual thoughts. Right? Stories of monks in the suttas who have sexual thoughts, especially the monk Mañjūsā, for example. He was a poet and very worldly, so he had to struggle with these ideas. Here, in other words, if you have sexual fixation, sexual addiction, this is a good practice. All right, because this, why are we addicted to sex? Why do we think a lot about sex? Is because we have this idea that the body is something attractive, something pleasurable, and so on. So you have to reflect on the opposite of it, which is the perceived foulness. See the body as rotting, see the body as in its filthy state, right? So when you think of you see a dead body, there are different ways of doing this. For example, the different stages of decay, right? The body which is dead 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then the body is bloated up, and the body with all kinds of impurities oozing out from the openings. So now, of course, you're not advised to practice this on your own. It can be traumatic for people, for anyone, without any guidance. Well, you need special guidance to do this. The basic rule is, when you do this, you must also practice. You must close it with really a lot of loving kindness towards yourself, towards other beings also. You cannot just do it by yourself. It's traumatic. You see death in the face, if you like. It's like a war trauma, so it's not easy to handle. So it's like fighting poison with poison. So you need loving kindness, right? The Buddha has gone through this, so he knows what he's talking about. It's a very powerful meditation. When you look at the body rotting during stages of decay and death, then you are not interested in sexual intercourse anymore, especially for the monks who are supposed to be celibate, all right? Of course, for lay people, this will help them to control themselves when they're not supposed to indulge in such activities. For example, it's not that sex is bad here. It's just that this is how you control yourself not to get caught up with this kind of habit, in other words. So here, your mind becomes very calm, or you just don't feel like doing it anymore, loathsomeness. So this is what this section 3 and 4 refers to. No? Now, 4.2 is the parable. This parable is like it's a stock passage which appears to all the other 6 what do you call perceptions. The fire parable. Bhikshus, just as a cock's feather or a strip of sinew that is thrown into the fire, shrinks away from it, turns away from it, rolls back from it. It is not drawn to it, right? So the feather, because of the heat, probably it will get kind of floats away. Even so, it is with the monk. Here, monk includes meditator also, who continuously abides with a mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of foulness. His mind shrinks away from sexual intercourse, turns away from it, rolls back from it, is not drawn to it. Either equanimity or loathsomeness is established in him. Okay, go further down. Some more. Okay. Now 4.3 is a kind of like a caveat. Okay, what if we can't do this meditation? However, bhikshus, if the monk who continuously abides with the mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of foulness, his mind is directed to sexual intercourse, or if non-loathsomeness is not established towards it, then bhikshus, this should be known by that monk. I have not cultivated the perception of foulness. I have not attained to the successive stages of distinction. I have not gained the fruit of cultivation. Thus, he clearly knows the situation. Bhikshus, if the monk, so here, sometimes it may not work for certain people, then they have to try something else. Something like they turn to one of the other 6 methods, because this particular one, maybe they're used to it, maybe they think differently about it, so it doesn't affect them. Normally, meditation gets weakened by thinking, right? That's the danger. You notice sometimes when I post certain reflections, some people will write some intellectual response, like correcting me and saying, oh, dismissing me and so on, just saying some things which shows that they don't really understand what I've written. And that's very, very risky, right? Then you don't really learn. You just kind of make an excuse of not accepting the truth. Then you have not really learn anything. However, bhikshus 4.4, bhikshus, if the monk continuously abides with the mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of foulness, his mind shrinks away from such intercourse, turns away from it, rolls back from it. He is not drawn to it. Either equanimity of loathsomeness is established in him, then bhikshus, this should be known in that by that monk, I have cultivated the perception of foulness. I have attained to that successive stages of distinction. I've gained the fruit of cultivation. Thus, he clearly knows the situation. The perception of foulness, bhikshus, when cultivated and continuously developed, is of great fruit, of great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending in the death-free. Thus it is said. It is for this reason that it is said. So you see this standard structure in all the other 6 perceptions. You practice it. If there is no effect, you note it, right? And then you correct it, or you turn to some other practice that's more suitable. Otherwise, if it works, then you go on doing it and you progress on the path. So this is the first method, all right? So the first method, once again, in summary, which monks are instructed to do, is to watch the different stages of decay of the body. There are some interesting details about these stages if you get the right teacher to teach you. For example, if a person is attracted to, say, the muscular body, then they look at the rotting, the body bloated up and so on, and say, no, that's the muscle that you're talking about, it's all rotting. So you lose interest in it after that. And then there are those who think that people have beautiful bones, body structure and so on. Then they reflect on the skeleton, for example, right? Then there is an easier meditation. This one can be done by lay people without supervision. If you're attracted to someone in the improper way, then you can reflect, okay, this person is just like me. He's made up of the 31 parts of the body, right? Just you can start with the first 5 or 6 parts. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. That's what I am, that's what this person is. We are made up of head hair, body hair, nail, that is fingernail, toenail, teeth, skin. All these things are impermanent. They fall away. And that's all there is to it, really. So these are different aspects of this meditation. So this number 1 is the name of a set of meditation, this perception of foulsomeness or loathsomeness. So, okay, let's try one more and then we'll take a break. Okay, that's number 2, perception of death, marana saññā. Okay, this one is not too difficult. And this one is also one of my meditations, perception of death. The perception of death, bhikshus, when cultivated and continuously developed, is of great fruit, of great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending up in the death-free. Thus it is said. For what reason is this said? Bhikshus, when a monk continuously abides with a mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of death, his mind shrinks away from the love of life or lifeization, turns away from it, rolls back from it, he's not drawn to it. Either equanimity of loathsomeness is established in him. So in other words, you reflect on death. You know it's there. You don't pretend, you don't deny it, in other words. So you know it will come, right? One way to practice it is, let's say you visit a relative or friend who has passed away. You still can see the face of the body, and you say, just as this body was, or just as this body is, so will my body be. Just as my body is, so will it be like that body. So you reflect in it where you're reminded of this time is passing, and then of course you must do loving kindness for yourself. So here again, if it doesn't work, then you must acknowledge it, that it's not working. Then you try some other meditation. Okay. And if it does work, that's fine. Then you go on practicing it. So if it works properly, then it's like in the fire parable. A feather will float away because of the heat. Right. So too the mind will just move away from attachment to life. Right. Now here, attachment to life doesn't mean the person loves death. It's just that the person does not fear death. Right. Of course, it's not that simple, because sometimes you can still fear death because you have not attained high levels, or because this meditation is not strong enough. So you need to have other helping meditation also to go with this. So one meditation sometimes may not be enough. So you got to know this for yourself. That's why that paragraph on which says that it doesn't work for you, then you have to note it. All right, that is 6.3. The mind is still directed to the love of life. Then he should turn to another perception, or perhaps approach the method differently. Okay, so this is the perception of death. All right, so we will take 5 minutes off here for a break. Now this one is very good. The slowness in food is good for this life also, although that's not the purpose of this practice, of course. 7. The perception of loathsomeness in food, bhikshus, when cultivated and continuously developed, is of great benefit, great fruit of great benefit, grounded in a death-free, ending up in the death-free. Thus it is said, for what reason is this said? Bhikshus, when a monk continuously abides with the mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of loathsomeness in food, his mind shrinks away from craving for taste, turns away from it, grows back from it, is not drawn to it. Either equanimity of loathsomeness is established in him. All right, so here, basically, you look at the food and imagine you're chewing it, and then you notice that this food, when after you've chewed it, and then it happens, you happen to vomit it out. I don't think you find it any more palatable. It's really yucky. So that's one way of looking at it. One way of kind of telling yourself, "Oh, that's enough. I'm not going to eat anymore." Another one is reflecting on the nature of food itself. If you left out there too long, it will rot. You got to eat it within a certain time. And of course, food becomes waste material and so on. So it's a reflection in that way. The idea is to not to get caught up with the taste. Of course, if we notice that we're still caught up with the taste, then we got to re-examine our practice, what is wrong with it, or we got to switch to something else to help with that practice. So this one is to look at the nature of food that we are taking, and not to think of the things that make us, that draw us to it, like the smell and then the taste and the texture and the looks. So basically you see it as not really helping. Of course, not, in modern times, you also think in terms of health benefits, right? But the problem is when people are so caught up with, they're addicted to something, even to eating, no matter what warning is given to them by the experts, they still will not, they're still impervious to it. They don't listen to it anyway. So a lot of self-will, determination is needed here to stay healthy. So if you start early, it's easier for you, in other words. Otherwise, you might get someone to like read a reflection and help you along as a kind of therapy. Okay, so the rest is all the same. How you deal with this. Okay, so if it doesn't work, then you try something else to work with it. Okay, let's look at number 4 now. Number 4 is quite a long name. The perception of not delighting in all the world. Sabba loke anabhirata saññā. The perception of not delighting in all the world, bhikshus, when cultivated and continuously developed, is of great fruit, of great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending up in the death-free. Thus it is said. For what reason is this said? Bhikshus, when among continuously abides with the mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of not delighting in all the world, his mind shrinks away from worldly thoughts, turns away from them, rolls back from them. He is not drawn to them. Either equanimity or loathsomeness is established in him. So here, how to overcome, it helps us to overcome worldly thoughts, being caught up with the world, right? Here means gain and loss, happiness and sorrow, praise and gain, things like that, fame and so on, worldliness, which is very common today in a so-called modernist Buddhism. So here we have to learn to let go of it, in other words. Remind ourselves that we are renunciants, we're reflecting on this. So basically, this is a reminder, okay? You will notice that most of those monks and nuns and people who are caught up with worldliness, they are in denial. They deny all these things that they're caught in. They think that this is a modern thing, it's going to help spread Buddhism. But the reality is they are caught up in all this worldliness, all these worldly thoughts, instead of being thinking like a renunciant, in other words. Of course, for lay people here, we're talking about moderation, about contentment. It doesn't mean you should not work hard. The other day I was giving a talk in the National University Buddhist Society. A student asked whether as Buddhists we should work hard and struggle for success. I say, well, that's what you have come to the university for. That's what you, as young people, young students, that's what you do. And the Buddha in the Mangala Sutta, for example, stress on hard work, determination, right effort, and so on. As long as the determination is right and good, then happiness will come to you. You have more choices of the right things. And in that sense, you're doing something wholesome for yourself. And of course, with all this wealth and comfort that you have, you are doing something good with it, in other words. So as long as you keep that in balance, you find that you will be happy as a Buddhist, right? And then you're not caught up with the world. Instead of using, in Buddhist teachings, being wealthy is a blessing. And there are duties that go with wealth. If you have more than others, then you should be sharing it with those who are in need of it in the proper way, and people you notice who need help, and you're willing and able to help them in a way that is helpful, that's really helpful to them. It doesn't mean you blindly help others either. That's not very, very wholesome too. So this is where being wise and helping others is very important also. Organized kind of helping, and the proper way of helping, knowing how the help you give will benefit others to help themselves and so on, right? So that's not regarded as worldliness in a bad sense. It's still some sense of worldliness, but it's in a good sense. And then there comes a time where you learn to just kind of sit back a bit and then just enjoy the peace that is within you. As we age, as we become, senior years, we won't have the strength to work as before. This is something we don't hear people talk about, because by the time they are old, no one listens to them. No one listens to us anymore when we are too old. So one way, of course, is to write something useful, inspire people. And of course, there was a time when, like in Asia, listening to the old folks is a great thing, but it's not so nowadays, right? So anyway, it means that if you have something wise and good to say, it's good to write it out nicely so that others benefit even in your old age. So that's perception of not delighting in all the world, letting go of the world, and yet being happy in this world. Contentment is what makes us truly happy in this world. Okay, now number 5, perception of impermanence. Okay, this is my favorite, and this is a very wonderful meditation. So here, the perception of impermanence, bhikshus, when cultivated and continues to develop, is of great fruit, of great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending up in the death-free. So notice this, cultivation of the perception of impermanence leads to nirvana, to the path. It is. And why is that? Why is this so? 12. Bhikshus, when a monk continuously abide with a mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of impermanence, his mind shrinks away from gain, honor, and praise, turns away from them, rolls back from them. He's not drawn to them. Either equanimity or loathsomeness is established in him. So he's not interested in being caught up in the world of things, of acquisition, in other words. And also we understand nature of loss and change and so on, impermanence, right? So impermanence is a very broad practice. I've often talked about this before. So here again, if you notice it's not working, then you augment it with some other practice to make it, to strengthen it, basically, all right? So, and then the parable is all the same. Okay, let's go to number 6 now. The perception of suffering in the impermanence. So here we see suffering in impermanence. It's a bit more specialized here. So it is of great benefit, section 13. So what's the reason for this? Next page. That's the what is the reason for this? And the Buddha says, bhikshus, when a monk continuously abides with a mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of suffering and impermanence, a keen sense of danger is set up in him regarding lethargy, inaction, laziness, languor, heedlessness, non-devotion, and inattention, as if towards a murderer brandishing a sword. Here the meaning is that we will make effort. We will not say, oh, never mind, I will study Buddhism when I'm old, or somehow we're just lazy, we're not interested. Here it's like we know there's a murderer outside, so we are very careful. We make sure we are safe, right? We make the effort that attention is there. There's a keen sense of avoiding danger, right? So that's the meaning here. So again, the same thing. If you notice that you're not able to totally build up this sense of danger, then you have to find out what's wrong. Where is it that something's missing? Maybe you're not calm enough, right? And maybe this practice doesn't suit you. Try something else, or try something else that helps this practice. So this is seeing suffering in the impermanence. Now it's the last one, right? Number 7, isn't it? Let's go down a bit more. Look, everything else is the same, repeat itself. So number 7 is the last one. Perception of lack of self in the suffering. Dukkha anatta saññā. So this one is the kind of most difficult one. So let's put loss. And the 15 is the same as the above paragraphs. This perception of self, perception of lack of self, or perception of non-self in the suffering is of great benefit. Why is that so? 16, the Buddha says, bhikshus, when a monk continuously abides with a mind accustomed to or attending to the perception of the lack of self in the suffering, his mental activity or mentation is devoid of I-making, mind-making, and conceit regarding this conscious body and all external signs. It has transcended discrimination. It is peaceful and well liberated. So in other words, the person is not a narcissist. He has overcome narcissism. He does not get caught up with I, me, mine. Whatever he sees outside all the sense objects, he sees them as rising and falling as impermanent, as non-self. He does not identify with them. No discrimination, no identification. So in that sense, he's at peace and he's free. So there's no I, me, mine, no narcissism. So this one is not easy, and yet it can be cultivated with the idea of non-self. All right. So there's a lot of repetition in the structure here, and then the Buddha reminds us any of these 7 practices can bring you to the path to nirvana. This, the last paragraph, the closing paragraph, right at the end. Let's close this study. Go to the end, please. These 7 perception bhikshus, when cultivated, continuous develop of great fruit, of great benefit, grounded in the death-free, ending up in the death-free. So there you are, 7 practices. Perception of foulness, of death, of loathsomeness in food, not delighting in all the world, impermanence. Number 6, suffering in the impermanent, and the last one is of non-self in the suffering. So these are 7. If you can't remember all the 7, remember at least number 5, that is impermanence. Okay, just choose one and remember it. All right, question time. You have about 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Piya, for the teaching. Now we go to the chat box and look at the first question.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is by Sister William. Buddha sometimes talk about deathless, sometimes talk about nirvana, sometimes talk about void, sunyata, sometimes unbinding. Are there any distinctive difference between them?
No, no difference. They're the same thing. It's like looking at the sunset and then talking in different ways about it. Nirvana can be spoken of. See, the thing is, nirvana has no attributes. In other words, nirvana cannot be there are no fixed words for nirvana, because nirvana refers to like fire has been put out. When the fire has been put out, what can you say? You can say almost anything, but nothing is fixed. You can say it is cool. You can say normal burning, right? Things like that. So nirvana is where time and space has been transcended. Time and space as we understand it in this world. So in that sense, no more samsara, no more suffering. It is void in the sense there's no self, there's no arising, no passing away, right? So it depends on what you want to talk about. That samsara is not. Sometimes this is called apophatic language. It's a way of talking religious ideas using negative language, not this, not that. Okay, because nirvana is, you can't really define it. It is unconditioned. You can't say it doesn't exist. You can't say it exists, right? So it's beyond words in that sense. Just like if you can't follow all these things I've said, just imagine you have blown up fire, it's gone, the fire has been put out. Where has it gone? We can't really say much about it. So that's the meaning in the Vacchagotta Sutta. Okay, next, please.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Sister Willing also. She's asking about the other remaining of the three perceptions, namely the perception of abandonment, dispersion, cessation, that are not mentioned in this particular sutta that we are studying. Is it because they are less important?
No, those abandonment, dispersion, cessation are present in all the experiences resulting from this meditation. Abandonment of defilements, dispersion, that means the mind is free from hatred, sensation of suffering, right? So that is towards the end when the person is reaching nirvana, right? So it's present in the result of all the 7 practices when they begin to fruit. So it depends on where you're looking at. So this one is what they call that, describes the nature of awakening, the later part, not the meditation itself in the practice. It's talking about the result of it. Okay, all right.
Okay. Next one is from Tom. Thinking of the photos of the late 19th century, early 20th century Achans, having a very dour expression, can the perception of the unclean, asubha, that is the 7 perception, turn into hatred?
Okay. I find this very funny. Yeah, because yeah, a lot of younger monks and not so reverend Buddhists have remarked that some of these Vipassana teachers look very dour. Dour means very, very serious, almost unhappy, like they don't smile. How should I say it? Now, the thing is, it's a cultural thing, because in Myanmar, for example, a smiling monk would be regarded with suspicion, let's put it that way. So it's a cultural thing, all right? So if you think you're an arahat, or people perceive an arahat, so you got to behave in a serious, dour kind of expression. Okay, this won't work in the West anyway. So it's a cultural thing. It doesn't mean they're awakened. It just means that that's expected of them. That's what they've been conditioned to think and behave by their culture. So they look very serious, very unfriendly, unsmiling. Whereas we don't, there is no such description of the Buddha in the suttas. Nowhere in the sutta is it ever mentioned any of the Buddha or the Arahats look like that. The Buddha, in fact, is often said to have a gentle smile, mihita, a gentle smile on his face, on his lips, without the teeth showing. A very gentle smile, a happy look. So if you look at the Buddha's image when by a good artist who keeps to the rules of iconography, you see this Buddha look happy, and the Buddha doesn't stare directly at you. It looks down about 45 degrees on the ground. I wouldn't think of this picture of Achans, and I think I can't think of any Achans who look like this. It's more of the Sayadaws actually. So I wouldn't use those images for meditation. They're not very helpful. So I mean, it makes me laugh. That's one thing. I think it's okay to think of them and laugh and be happy and then show metta. I would say that would be more helpful rather than other practices because it's a cultural thing, you know. But I'm happy you asked this question. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question and thank you for the answer. Anyone else has any question?
Yeah, you have 1 minute. Yeah. Oh, family photo. Any last minute question?
Piya, I got one question
Sure.
regarding these perceptions. Like when we do our perception, our breath meditation and our loving kindness meditation, we usually sit down and do. Like this lostness of food and then not relating in the world, impermanent suffering and non-self. Is it also we sit down and do, or we can just do it anytime we like? When we're not sitting down, how is it being practiced?
Perception as meditation is quite versatile. Properly done, of course, you sit down and do it. You know, you kind of, you go on watching it until you attain some level of focus and calmness. Sometimes as you look at the world, as you experience the world, you will see it. Then you apply that thought to what you're experiencing. In other words, you are looking at the world as it is and noting it so. That's called perception in this case. So there are two sides to it. One is when you are watching the world, with the world. The other is when you are doing your sitting meditation. So they go back and forth to help each other. So ultimately, of course, we will be in the sitting when you bring in all the other meditation. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other last minute meditations? Last minute question, I mean.
Meditation question or any question?
Yes. So, all right, so we'll end here then. Huh?
Okay.
And yeah, this yesterday was Qingming, right? Was it yesterday? 4th.
Not only yesterday lah. I think
yeah, there's a
2
funny
weeks
thing about
before
the Chinese date of Qingming is April. It's usually April 4th, isn't it? They choose a certain date, you know. Anyway, this is one of the Chinese. It's called a grave cleaning ritual, and it's always the first week of April. And this is when the Chinese would go to the ancestral graveyard and clean it up, you know. Because if nowadays land is such a premium, and in Singapore, I don't think we have any more. We don't have graves we have these little columbariums, where the ashes are stored in little slots in the wall. So they will go there. So basically, it's a day to remember our dearly departed. So let us spend this moment, first of all, remembering what we have done today. We have gathered together in peace, in moral virtue, in wisdom. We have recited the 3 refuges and 5 precepts. And we've done some meditation. By the power of all these good deeds we have done, may we be well and happy at peace. May we grow in wisdom. May we grow in friendship. May we be happy. And by the power of the 3 jewels, let us dedicate the merits of all this good we have done to our loved ones who have passed away. But please think of your relatives who have passed away and dearly missed. I dedicate this marriage to my late father, late mother, other relatives, uncles, and other relatives, that they may be well and happy wherever they are. May they be reborn in happy states where there is the Dhamma, that they will benefit from it. And also dear friends who have passed away, that they are happy, reborn in Dhamma wherever they are. And finally, let us remember the 3 jewels to show our eternal gratitude to the Buddha, our teacher, the Dhamma, the teaching and the Sangha, the community of followers who have kept to the path. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.